Hey guys, what's going on? Hermdo back with you. Let's move my camera down a little bit. There we go. I hope you're having a good Sunday. I'm just chilling out, drinking some tropical beer hug. It's pretty good stuff. And I'm also looking at some shit on Reddit regarding the economy. Now, the economy, if you talk to a lot of people around certain circles, people say it's kind of shitty. A lot of people are getting laid off. Consumer sentiment is down. Inflation seems to be going up. All this kind of stuff has been happening, and we're getting a lot of different takes on this. But I stumbled upon this thing on Reddit. I'm gonna adjust my camera again because I don't know how to work these little windows. But anyways, this says, let's get into this a little bit. Does anyone else find it weird that the economy is okay? Now, this was flagged as potentially misleading and unconfirmed by okay economic indicators as the central banks and governments act on are all relatively healthy. Inflation is slightly down. Okay, let's take that. Let's do some fact checking on this guy. Now, this is the AI overview, so we might have to fact check this too. But anyways, yes, inflation is currently high. In March 2025, the overall annual inflation rate was 2.4%, a decrease from 2.8% in February, but still reflecting a bumpier path back to the Federal Reserve's 2% target. While core inflation, excluding food and energy, hit a post-pandemic low of 2.8%, the overall rate suggests that inflation is still above the desired levels. I'm not sure where this guy is getting this from. But anyways, his next point, he says, unemployment hasn't really moved despite Doge layoffs. Many federal employees are being paid through September, but contractors likely didn't get that level of severance. So let's take a look at an unemployment numbers. Unemployment rate. Unemployment rate, 4.2%. But as we all know, it's kind of misleading the way they count jobs. Like, people without homes have jobs, the kind of jobs that are being created, how much money do these jobs pay? Can you live off these jobs? What kind of industries are they being created in? Who are these jobs going to? Because there's been a big, it's a right-wing talking point, but a lot of right-wingers are talking about how a lot of these jobs are going to immigrants, specifically like Indian H-1Bs and whatnot. So it's like, there's a lot of speculation about who these jobs are actually going to, how good these jobs actually are, all sorts of stuff. There's a political article. I made a video about it a few months ago. But yeah, I don't really trust the unemployment data coming from official sources recently. The most concrete metric is scheduled containers in LA port are down by 30%, which is bad. Isn't that bad? It looks like companies' earnings are going to be okay for this quarter. In terms of time of the next pullback, I think we'll be looking towards the end of May with maybe something in the second week of May. So yeah. But anyways, he's kind of getting challenged a little bit here, but he says, remember, tariff enforcement rules were changed for these events. Instead of being based on when something arrives, it's based on when things departed. Basically created a 3-week delay from implementation. Tariffs really haven't been imposed yet. Doge layoffs have hit, 100K people, and they're still likely either being paid or still have severance. The downstream effects take months. I remember working in finance in 2008. All mortgage lending seized in March, but took till fall for the business collapses and panic. The Doge layoffs have basically all feds and contractors pinched pennies because their jobs aren't safe. Even if they ultimately get fired, the spending slowdown will matter. Yep, people just aren't spending. Let's take a look at consumer sentiment. Now, rich people are spending. Let's look at consumer spending. Also, this is personal consumption expenditures. Yeah, we know what that is. Is it up or down? Consumers continue to spend even as we trade wars raise recession talk. Who is spending? What consumers? They're probably in like the top 50, top 10%. While Americans are increasingly concerned about their financial standing, consumer spending has picked up. Even though spending is higher now, financial constraints coupled with expectations that the economy is weakening will cause consumers to cut back in the months ahead. So yeah, we're still in the early stages. I think we're still in quarter one, or maybe quarter two of 2024, early quarter two, Q2 as the finance guys call it. So we're not seeing much of the downstream effects of this yet, but this could get much worse. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy, says Wharton's assistant professor of finance, Sasha Indarte. While many Americans are worried about where the U.S. economy is heading, few have changed their spending habits in anticipation of a slowdown. Nearly 3/4 or 73% of adults say they are financially stressed, with the most pointing to tariff wars as the culprit, according to a recent CNBC SurveyMonkey online poll. Yet consumer spending has remained remarkably resilient, in part because looming tariffs. Shoppers are panic buying. There's another factor to consider. In fact, consumer spending was even stronger than expected in March, according to the Commerce Department, which ticked up again in April. Data released Wednesday from JP Morgan showed JP Morgan also raised its odds for U.S. and global recession to 60% by year end, up from 40% previously. So let's see what consumer sentiment. See if consumer sentiment falls to lowest level since post-pandemic inflation peak. So we're talking about 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. Consumer sentiment nosedived in April to the lowest level since the peak of the post-pandemic inflation surge as President Trump's trade battle shakes the global economy. Sentiment dropped 8.4% from March to April and was down, oh, for God's sake, 32.4% from a year ago. According to University of Michigan survey of consumers falling to the lowest point since July of 2022, current economic conditions dropped to a modest 6.3%, while expectations fell by more than 10% to mark an annual decline of 37.8%. Year-ahead inflation expectations are measured by the survey and increased from 5% annual increase in March to a 6.5% in April. The Federal Reserve expects inflation to top out at 2.7% this year and to subside to 2.2% next year. Inflation is currently at 2.5% annual increase as measured by the Commerce Department. So yeah, lots and lots of indicators. People are panic buying. The consumer sentiment is low. We're all just waiting for the downstream effects of these tariffs. Now, the company I work for, or I work in a department that is supplied by this company at my job. The company I work for, it's an auto supplier, and their revenues are down $300 million. They've essentially stopped selling parts to China right now. Could it affect me? I'm looking to leave this job soon anyway. I'm moving back to the other side of my state, back to my hometown in maybe a month or so. So I'm not super concerned about it. If I'm out of work for a couple weeks, not that big of a deal. I have a job lined up when I move back, but still, I don't really want to have to fuck around with unemployment. I don't know what's going on. My boss, we deal with a lot of automotive parts, and the automotive industry is getting hit hard by this kind of stuff. You know, inflation on these cars, dealer markups, a lot of that kind of stuff. People's paying 60, 70 grand for a SUV. Yeah, it's like a rich man's game. It's like how many people can afford a $1,200 car note? That's the thing. So it is affecting me in a way, but I don't know. It could get a lot worse. Let's read a little bit more about these layoffs. The Doge layoffs thing is interesting in terms of overall employment. Doge has barely made a dent in it, despite running lots of people's livelihoods. At the same time, Doge really does nothing to improve efficiency, probably because its scope is so limited and a bunch of walkbacks with their idiocies, of course. And I never thought firing a bunch of government employees was any kind of a good idea. Just pointing out that at best it's nearly neutral, but more likely leaning disastrous. Work with the feds is actually a huge effect on efficiency. They randomly changed a bunch of forms and added new verification steps while simultaneously reducing the tariff at the agency. I work with 20%. It's a total disaster now. Added a weekly transaction down to a 50% increase. Jesus Christ. And slashing IRS level costs an estimated $500 billion in uncollected taxes. They wanted to fix. Oh shit! Where did it go? God damn it! I think I closed the thread. Oh damn! I closed the thread. But yeah, he was talking about the IRS uncollected taxes. Apparently, hold on a second. Let me see if I can Google Doge savings. They said, Doge cuts have saved 160 billion. Those cuts have cost taxpayers 135 billion. Oh, for God's sake! Okay. God Almighty. Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, said it has saved 160 billion through its push to root out wasteful or fraudulent government spending, but that effort may have come at a cost for taxpayers. The new analysis, the nonpartisan research and advocacy group estimating the Doge actions will cost 135 billion this fiscal year. The analysis seeks to retaliate the costs associated with putting tens of thousands of federal employees on paid leave, rehiring mistakenly fired workers, and lost productivity, according to the Partnership of Public Service (PSP), a nonprofit that focuses on the federal workforce. PSP's estimate is based on $270 billion in annual compensation costs for the federal workforce, calculating the impacts of Doge actions from paid leave to productivity hits. The $135 billion cost to taxpayers doesn't include the expense of defending multiple lawsuits challenging Doge's actions, nor the impact of estimated lost tax collections due to the staff cuts for the IRS. Doge has sought to slash federal spending by urging government workers to accept the deferred resignation plan, which allows many employees to retain full pay benefits through September without working. Wow. Another 24,000 government employees who were fired as part of the reform effort have since been rehired after a court ruling. Absolute fucking mess. Anyways, Monkey Hawk says, no, I don't think most American are missing is container transit times. We're going to get low-duty items, but not for long. Surcharges and stock outs are just beginning. 25 to 45 days for ocean transport checks watch. Yep, we'll have supply shock in the next couple weeks, which all the MAGA gear dry up for alongside Granny's Temu purchases. Jesus Christ. The market reacts faster than the economy. The market jumps and falls every day based on news and life. The economy ends up long-term issues as a reality of ruining relationships with trade partners and having a president use tariffs to pump and dump the market for cash and force companies and countries to deal with him like a mafia boss running a protection racket. The market up today is just because Trump had to ease off on things, because bonds, treasury dollars were getting damaged. He's trying to get back on this bullshit, though. He's gaslighting threats against Powell. Besson says tariffs are unsustainable. One day, then he says he never thought that the next. Meanwhile, they're talking tariffs the next couple weeks again. Yeah, this is just a big mess. I don't want to read the whole thing, but there's something else. I think my yeah, this right here. This is me on Reddit, by the way. As reported by Axios, Trump was shaken Monday at the meeting with CEOs, top tier companies like Target. They want to disrupt the supply chain due to China tariffs would mean empty shelves and soaring prices very soon. You can imagine the optics of bare shelves around the country would look. Maybe they'll get exemptions as Trump coded capitalist marches, but a huge number of small businesses won't and will go under. Somewhere Xi is smirking. Yep. Rattled by dire CEO warnings. The same CEOs who told Larry Fink, hey, we're probably in a recession, champ. Or soon will be. I think Ray Dalio is going on about this. Those guys like that, him like Peter Schiff, all these guys, they called the 2008 recession early, and they've been coasting on that ever since. Dalio's always saying the economy is going under. Always. He's always got a bunch of shit. A lot of panic and hyperbole, but honestly, I think this time, hey, maybe they're right. Maybe we should be listening to these guys. Let's get into this article a little bit. President Donald Trump is backing away from hardline tariff threats to being hit with a blunt warning from America's top retail CEOs. Keep going, and stores could run out of products within weeks. In a private meeting on Monday, the heads of Target, Walmart, and Home Depot told the president that while prices were still stable, the impact of his aggressive trade policies was about to hit fast and hard. According to Axios, they warned him that disrupted supply chains would mean soaring prices and bare shelves. This wasn't about food, but he was told that shelves will be empty, a source told the outlet. The message got through. By Tuesday, Trump had dramatically changed his tone. Speaking to reporters, he said he didn't want to play hardball with China and that he was confident a deal could be made to reduce tariffs. He also backed away from previous threats to fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, saying he had no intentions of doing so. Yeah, Donald Trump is being brought back down to reality. He's being smacked back down by Xi Jinping and realizing that he can't hack and slash every fucking person he wants to. There's checks and balances at play. You can't do all this kind of shit. You're fucking millions of people over with this shit. And he fucked over small businesses in his first term, too. This is not surprising. This is a real fucking mess. He swapped to money about Canada and Ukraine now, so give it a few days and tariff talk will be back. Edit, here we go. Let's see what this has to say. Trump says he'll start setting tariffs in a couple weeks on nations that haven't struck deals. In a press conference on Wednesday in the Oval Office, Trump said he thought the U.S. would get a great deals on this trade negotiations. If we don't have a deal with a company or country, we're going to set the tariff, he added. Trump said his administration had spoken with 90 countries on the tariffs thus far. This will happen, I'd say, over the next couple of weeks, wouldn't you say? I think so. Over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be setting the number. So, yeah. Get ready for inflation. Get ready for high prices on the stuff you buy. Get ready for a lot of turmoil. This is going to be a big fucking mess. And this is just me. I'm looking at this through like a layman's eyes. I'm giving like the basic analysis. You don't need me to tell you things are fucked. But this is very not good. And anybody thinking the economy might be fine by some of these measurements in some regards. If you don't look too deeply into it, you might think the economy is fine. It's really not, though. It's a really big fucking mess. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it there. But thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. For more hot economic news, yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Hope you're doing well. God bless you all, and I'll talk to you guys later.